Check out this new Xbox controller. Xbox sucks at naming things, but did they get it right this time? Also, was the Kinect as bad as we all remember? Let's discuss. So as we all know, Xbox has a long history of naming their products and services confusing, wacky things. Let's just take a look at the consoles. So over on the PlayStation side, you have PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Simple, direct, everyone gets it, no confusion. I like it. Over on Xbox's side though, you had the original Xbox, then you go over to the Xbox 360, which is okay, bit of a bold choice there, but it's pretty cool. 360s are cool, I guess. And then you go to Xbox One, and that's like, whoa. Okay, if we're going by PlayStation logic, Xbox One would be the original Xbox, but this is the third generation of Xbox. Hold on. Okay. So then they go Xbox One S and Xbox One X. And then what do they do for the next generation, this current generation? They name it to something so similar to those third generation consoles, the Series X and the Series S versus the 1X and 1S. I get them confused all the time, just like talking about it and getting them all straight. Along that same line of logic, people were getting really confused with Xbox Game Pass versus the Game Pass version for PC. And in true Xbox fashion, people were getting really confused with Game Pass and its offerings. On your console, you pay a subscription fee and you get access to a whole library of games to play for that is bundled in that subscription fee. But the service is also on PC as well. And that's where the confusion was coming from for the longest time, right? So they were responding to that, they're really trying to promote the PC version of Game Pass. So they were putting out these advertisements, this marketing campaign saying, Game Pass has PC games. And when I first saw that, I was like, okay, Game Pass has PC games? That's awesome. Does that mean I can play Age of Empires on my Series X? No, you can't. You gotta have the PC version of Game Pass. So in order to cut down on confusion, they are officially renaming Game Pass for PC to just PC Game Pass. Dropping the Xbox, they're just going PC Game Pass, simple, direct. Again, I like it. And of course, they made it official on Twitter, changing their @Xbox Game Pass for PC account to just PC Game Pass. And they've changed all the branding on their websites as well. And again, like I said, they're really pushing this PC Game Pass service. Actually, if you go to their website right now, you can get 3 months for $1, which is a great deal. And just as a reminder, if you have Game Pass Ultimate, which is the top tier of Game Pass subscription, that's bundled into your service. So you get the console version, the Xbox Game Pass, and you get the PC version, PC Game Pass. Lovely. While we're on the topic of Xbox naming practices, there's been a lot of interesting revelations since Xbox put out their 6-part documentary on YouTube, examining the history of Xbox and their story and their impact on the gaming community. And that includes all of the failed names that they almost named Xbox. And I'm gonna list a couple of them right here because some of them are absolutely ridiculous. Carpet Ride, Norbo, Xantra, Fireplug, a Vibe with a Y, of course, and the one that almost beat out Xbox, the one that tested better than all these other names, including Xbox, was 11X. Microsoft's 11X, coming soon to a home entertainment system near you. Now, that's a reference to the 1980s mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap, where the lead singer says, all of our amps go up to 11X. There we go. That was almost what the Xbox's name was. I'm glad that they went a different way, and hopefully they can get it together a little bit on the naming of their products and services. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Ray. I would very much appreciate it if you went on over to Twitter and followed me @StayXboxReady. I also started a Twitch channel, so I'll have that link down in the description if you want to follow me for more live gaming shenanigans. Now, one of the more anticipated titles that Xbox fans have been waiting on is the Fable reboot, and that's going to be led by Playground Games, which is a British-based studio most known for their work on the Forza Horizon series. But fans of the series might remember that the first few Fable games were made by Lionhead Studios, which was acquired by Microsoft in 2006. Now, unfortunately, Lionhead Studios was closed down in 2016, but in a recent interview, Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond were reflecting, saying, closing Lionhead was a mistake. We made some mistakes in handling that studio and their titles, and we've learned a lot since then. And that's encouraging, to say the least. The Fable games were important to me, especially those first two. That first Fable game was really my first experience in an RPG, a game like that, a game that allowed me to fight however I like, a game that allowed me to develop relationships, a game that where my choices affected the story, affected the world around me, and affected my physical appearance. That was all super new to me. My older brother was the one that owned the original Xbox and also Fable, so I would sneak into his room and play Fable. I was just so obsessed and enamored with this game. At the time, Fable was highly criticized, actually, for missing a lot of features. The head of development was criticized for over-promising and not delivering on those promises. Sound familiar? I'm sure we can kind of draw a line between those statements and some games that are being put out right now. And then Fable 2 came out, and honestly, it's my favorite of the Fable franchise. Fable 3 came out, and it was, kind of so-so. It started off kind of slow. I think after such a long gap between Fable 2 and Fable 3, people were just expecting a lot more. And then it all kind of went downhill because then they came out with a Fable game that was entirely connected to the Kinect. And that really just started off a trend of seemingly that Microsoft was pushing Lionhead to kind of integrate things into their games and make certain types of games that weren't really playing to their strengths as a studio. I'm paraphrasing here, but like I said, the studio closed down in 2016 in the midst of them working on Fable Legends, which was a multiplayer free-to-play title that was, you were going to have like a dungeon master, and then you were going to have players kind of go through and try to beat this dungeon master type player situation. Closed down. It was very disappointing, very, very sad. Did they learn anything from their time owning Lionhead Studio and the mistakes that they made? Hopefully they did. So with the release of Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite, and with how good Hellblade 2 is looking, it seems that they did learn a thing or two. First, to kind of, provide these studios the funding, provide them the support, crap the whip when you need to, but also back off a little bit and let them do their thing if they need more time. For example, Forza Horizon 5 took an extra year, Halo Infinite took an extra year before they released, and I think that really paid off. Phil Spencer apparently agrees with that because he went on to say in this interview, "You acquire a studio for what they're great at now, and your job is to help them accelerate how they do what they do, not them accelerate what you do." So again, a bummer that Lionhead Studios closed down, but I'm glad that Xbox has been open with when they've made mistakes and open about, what they've learned from that experience. And I think it's showing in these current crop of games that are being put out. I, for one, am super excited about this Fable reboot that's going on. We really don't know too much about it. All we have is just this trailer of this fairy getting eaten and, a shot of the title as it goes above like this grand forest landscape. That's pretty much it. And people have dissected that trailer to death. But truth is, we don't really know. What I can really hope for is that it just has that same vibe as the originals, that kind of fairy tale-esque vibe, but also sort of dark in some ways, kind of a Brothers Grimm type of situation. I don't know. Hopefully they don't get too tied down with nostalgia. They kind of have that same vibe as the originals, but take it in a bold, new, fresh direction now that they have all this fancy tech and funding to work with. We'll see. Speaking of Kinect, while it may have been the downfall of Lionhead Studios, Phil Spencer in a recent interview was talking about the contributions that Xbox have made that have been impactful to the gaming industry. One of those was very obvious, Xbox Live Gaming, and the inclusion of that with the Xbox 360, that was huge. But also he said that he really thought that the Kinect had a lot of value, even though it was a very polarizing product, to say the least. So for those of you who don't remember, the Xbox Kinect was basically a motion sensor controller, but it also had voice functionality. It launched at the end of the Xbox 360 era, and mostly it was used to play games like Just Dance and other family-friendly titles. Overall, I liked it. I thought it was cool. I had one for the 360, and I would use it to play Skyrim. A lot of TikToks are going around right now of people modding Skyrim VR to the point where they can use their voice to talk to NPCs and to also use their voice to actually do the shouts in the game. And While you couldn't talk to NPCs, that was some stuff that you could do with your Kinect on the Xbox 360 version of Skyrim. I could yell at my Kinect to do shouts, whether I use the actual language of the shouts versus the in-game names, Unrelenting Force versus saying Fusarada. I could do that. I could yell at my Kinect to change weapons without having to go into the menu and pause the action of the game. It was pretty cool. I also had the Xbox One version of the Kinect, but that's when things sort of got messy. When they first launched the Xbox One, part of the huge gripe about it was that they were bundling in Kinects with every Xbox One, even if you didn't want it. They eventually pedaled back from that, but the damage had mostly already been done. Again, I thought the Kinect was cool on my Xbox One. I could yell at it to turn on, to turn off, to adjust the volume, to bring up certain apps. I could yell at it to pull up Netflix and pull up any TV show or movie I wanted. It was like having an Alexa or Google Home for your Xbox. They even had a really cool feature at the time called snapping. So if I was playing a game, I could snap another app and have them run simultaneously, multitasking on your Xbox, which I don't think you can really do right now. For example, I could be playing The Witcher 3 and then say, hey, Xbox, snap Twitch or snap Netflix, and I could do both at the same time on the same screen. It was awesome. Phil Spencer highlights another really interesting feature in this interview, and he brings up the point of accessibility in the Kinect. As we all know, Xbox has been working really hard on the accessibility front with their Xbox Adaptive Controller, their colorblind features, their accessibility tags on the Microsoft Store. Of course, as we came to find out, tying a game to the Kinect, you know, it was a novelty, really. We kind of experienced this when the Wii first launched. It was like, whoa, you can use all the nunchucks for all sorts of things. But the novelty soon wore off, I would say, in a lot of those games. And the problem was making it mandatory was just the wrong move. Not everyone wants to use the Kinect, whether in gaming or for their entertainment system purposes. And making it mandatory was definitely a bad move. Was it as bad as people remember? Me personally, I say no, although I know it's a very hotly debated topic, so let me know what you think down in the comments. Scuff Gaming is releasing a new special edition version of their Instinct Pro controller in collaboration with Devin Booker. Now, if you don't know who Devin Booker is, he's basically a walking W, and what I mean by that is, first of all, he's an NBA player, right? He plays for the Phoenix Suns, and that is an achievement that only a small percentage of the population of Earth can say that they've done. And not only is he an NBA player, he's a really, really good NBA player. Two-time All-Star, Olympic gold medalist. He made a run to the finals last year, didn't win the championship, but he was playing out of his mind during that playoff run last season. And somehow, in the midst of all that success, he's also a gamer. He's an avid gamer, not just any gamer. He's actually really, really good. For example, he won an NBA 2K All-Players tournament, and he streams a lot and consistently holds his own against some really, really awesome Call of Duty and Apex Legend players. So he's teamed up with Scuff Gaming to make his own special edition Instinct Pro Xbox controller. Right off the bat, they have a really robust customization system. You can change out the faceplates, change out the colors. It's basically Xbox Design Lab, but for Scuff Gaming. And it's a little bit more feature-rich than Xbox Design Lab if you go through the website. This isn't the first time he's teamed up with a gaming company to make his own kind of branded accessory. He did team up with Astro Gaming to make his own special headset, and honestly, it looked really, really cool. It was like a glow-in-the-dark kind of situation. Now, the Instinct Pro controller has been out for a couple of months now, but there are some key differences when you compare it to the Elite Series 2, for example. On the front, you have an onboard mute button that you can use for your microphone, and that's really convenient if you plug your headset directly into your controller. Most of the key differences are really going to come when you flip the controller over. For example, there are some pretty noticeable differences in the back paddles on the Instinct Pro controller versus the regular Elite Series controller. Now, this is not an Elite Series Xbox controller. This is just an Xbox One controller that I have a modded paddle back for. And traditionally, these paddles right here is what you would see on the Elite Series 2 controller. They're magnetic, so you can take them off if you don't use them, but basically that's sort of how the paddles look. You would traditionally remap these buttons to these back paddles, so you don't have to take your fingers off of your joysticks in order to perform any of these commands that are tied to these YBXA buttons. Now on the Instinct Pro, it's a little different. If you flip it over and you see the back paddles, they're not these long silvery things. They're kind of more built into the back of the controller. What's interesting to me is that the bottom two look like they could be really, really comfortable, but the top two, I'm not sure. I don't own a SCUF controller, so this is all conjecture, but it would seem that it would be a little harder to reach those upper two back paddles. Another thing to take note of is that both of these controllers have wired and wireless capabilities, but on the Instinct Pro, you have a removable battery pack, whereas the Elite Series 2, it's a built-in battery. If you're playing with an Elite controller, I assume that you are playing wired connection anyway, but if you like to play wireless, it might be a little better to go with the Instinct Pro. That way you can, when you run out of battery, you can switch out for another battery pack or another pair of AA batteries rather than plugging your controller every time it runs out of battery. One of the key differences, and this is a huge selling point for the Instinct Pro, is that the sensitivity for the triggers is they describe it as more of a mouse click, and some of the videos I've seen, that's an accurate description, honestly. On the Xbox Elite Series 2, you have 3 modes for your adaptive triggers, okay? So you can change it to where it's a long pull, a medium pull, or a short pull, depending on your sensitivity needs. On the Instinct Pro, there's only 2 trigger modes, the long pull and the short pull, but the short pull for the Instinct Pro triggers is super, super short. It takes like nothing to activate it. I can only imagine how many shots you can get off in Halo Infinite if you had one of those things and set it to the short settings. Now again, I don't own an Instinct Pro controller, so this is all conjecture based off of what I see at first glance, but Devin Booker's a really cool guy. I've heard really good things about the Instinct Pro controller. I feel like celebrities sometimes, they say that they're a gamer for clout reasons, but Devin Booker's the real deal, so if he had a hand in developing this and endorsing this product, I trust his endorsement, I trust his judgment as someone I know is a really good gamer. So you can pick it up right now for about $220. We'll have the link down in the description if you're interested. Anyway, guys, that's all the news I have for today. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Ray. I would very much appreciate it if you went on over to Twitter and followed me at StayXboxReady. I also started a Twitch channel, so I'll have that link down in the description if you want to follow me for more live gaming shenanigans, and we'll see you in the next video.